This is an audio-visual presentation on plane geometry. Now let's consider angles at a point. AB is a straight line and QP is also a straight line. Now line AB and line QP intersect at the point O. Angle AOP is A. Angle AOQ is C. Angle QOB is B, and angle POB is D. Vertically opposite angles are equal. Now when you look at the diagram, A and B are vertically opposite angles. And so because vertically opposite angles are equal, then we can write that A equals B. A equals B. Now also, because AB and QP are all straight lines intersecting at the point O, C and D are opposite angles, as you can see, and therefore C equals D. C equals D because they are opposite angles. Now considering the diagram, the sum of two adjacent angles is 180 degrees. Now when we consider the angle A, adjacent angles to angle A are C and D. And so because the sum of two adjacent angles is 180 degrees, it means that A plus C equals 180 degrees and A plus D is also equal to 180 degrees. So that is how come we have A plus C equals 180 degrees and A plus D equals 180 degrees. Now let's consider angle B. Adjacent angles to angle B are C and D. That is angle C and angle D. And because the sum of two adjacent angles is 180 degrees, it means that B plus C is equal to 180. That is B plus C equals 180 degrees. And B plus D is also equal to 180. That is how come we have B plus D equals 180 degrees. Now let's consider the diagram as shown. We have three angles at the point of intersection of the three lines. We have alpha degrees, beta degrees, and theta degrees. These three lines intersect at the point O, and the angle formed at the point O is in a circular form, as can be seen on the diagram. The sum of all angles in a circular form is equal to 360. And so because alpha degrees, beta degrees, and theta degrees forms a circle, it means that when we sum the three angles, it should be equal to 360 degrees. And therefore, alpha degrees plus beta degrees plus theta degrees is equal to 360 degrees. Now, considering the figure as shown from the diagram, AC is a straight line. And we have three angles on the straight line. We have alpha degrees, beta degrees, and theta degrees. Angle DBA is alpha degrees. Angle DBE is beta degrees. And angle EBC is theta degrees. These are the three angles on the straight line ABC. The sum of all angles on the straight line is 180 degrees. And because the angles on the straight line are alpha degrees, beta degrees, and theta degrees, when we add the three angles, it's equal to 180 degrees. Why? Because the sum of all angles on the straight line is 180 degrees. And therefore, alpha degrees plus beta degrees plus theta degrees is equal to 180 degrees. Now, let's look at this example. Find the size of the angles marked with letters in the following diagram. When we consider the first diagram, ABC is a straight line. We have three angles on the line ABC, and the angles are 43 degrees, y, and 51 degrees. We know that the sum of the angles on a straight line is equal to 180 degrees. And therefore, 43 degrees plus y plus 51 degrees is equal to 180 degrees. Now, we are solving for y. And therefore, 43 degrees on the left-hand side becomes minus 43 degrees on the right-hand side. And 51 degrees on the left-hand side becomes minus 51 degrees on the right-hand side. So y is equal to 180 degrees minus 43 degrees minus 51 degrees. And this is equal to 86. And therefore y is equal to 86. The value of y equals 86 degrees. That is the angle y. Now considering this diagram, AB is a straight line. We have angles above the line AB and we have angles below the line AB. Now when we consider the angles below the line AB, we have 43 degrees and V. These are the angles on the straight line AB, below the line AB. We know that the sum of the angles on the straight line is equal to 180 degrees. So considering the angles below the line AB, we can write that 43 degrees, that is 43 degrees plus V is equal to 180 degrees. So that is how come we have 43 degrees plus V equals 180 degrees. Now because we are solving for V, that means that 43 degrees on the left hand side becomes minus 43 degrees on the right hand side. And when you subtract 43 degrees from 180 degrees, the result is 137 degrees. That means that the value of V is equal to 137 degrees. And so when you add 137 degrees to 43 degrees, you will get 180 degrees. Now let's consider angles above the line AB. We have three angles above the line AB, and the angles are 35 degrees, U, and 25 degrees. And so it means we are solving for U. Now we know that the sum of the angles on the straight line is equal to 180. So considering the angles above the line AB, we can say that 35 degrees plus U plus 25 degrees is equal to 180. And that is how come we have 35 degrees plus 25 degrees plus U equals 180 degrees. Now because we are solving for U, we have to group all the angles on the right hand side. And so 35 degrees on the left hand side becomes minus 35 degrees on the right hand side. And 25 degrees on the left hand side also becomes minus 25 degrees on the right hand side. Now U is equal to 180 degrees minus 35 degrees minus 25 degrees. And the value of U is equal to 120 degrees. And the value of U is equal to 120 degrees. This means that when you add 35 degrees to 120 degrees to 25 degrees, you have to get 180 degrees. And so for your exercise, you can do that and verify. And see that V is equal to 137 degrees and U is equal to 120 degrees. Now let's consider the diagram. Considering the diagram as shown, we have three angles. We have 7x minus 15, we have 15x minus 75, and we have 6x plus 30. This forms a circle, and we know that the sum of the angles in the circular form is equal to 360. That means that when we add all these three angles, 7x minus 15, 15x minus 75, 6x plus 30 together, we have 360 degrees. And so 7x minus 15 plus 15x minus 75 plus 6x plus 30 is equal to 360, because the sum of all the angles in the circular form is equal to 360. And so when we add these three angles, it's equal to 360. Now we group the terms. So 7x, 15x, and 6x have the same term. And so we have 7x plus 15x plus 6x on the left hand side. And we group all the constants on the right hand side. And so minus 15 on the left hand side becomes plus 15 on the right hand side. Minus 75 on the left hand side becomes plus 75 on the right hand side. And plus 30 on the left hand side becomes minus 30 on the right hand side. Now 7x plus 15x equals 22x. And 22x plus 6x equals 28x. This is equal to 360 plus 15 plus 75 minus 30 is equal to 420. Now, because we are solving for x, we divide the left hand side by 28, and when we divide the left hand side by 28, we are left with x. This is equal to, when we divide the right hand side 420 by 28, we have 420 divided by 28, and the answer is 15. Therefore, x is equal to 15. That is, the value of x is equal to 15. Now, triangles. A triangle is a closed plane figure with 3 straight sides. So, considering this triangle as shown, we have 3 straight sides. That is, we have side PR, that is one side, another side PQ, and another side RQ. These are 3 straight sides, and they are closed. So a triangle is a closed plane figure with 3 straight sides. The angle at P is P. The angle at R is R. And the angle at Q is Q. The sum of angles of a triangle is 180 degrees. That is, when we sum the interior angles of a triangle, is equal to 180 degrees. And the interior angles are angles within the triangle, that is inside the triangle. And we have 3 angles, that is P, R, and Q. Now the sum of the angles of a triangle is equal to 180 degrees. And therefore, P plus Q plus R equals 180 degrees. And that is how come we have P plus Q plus R equals 180 degrees. The exterior angle of a triangle is equal to the sum of the 2 interior opposite angles. Now, when we say an exterior angle is an angle outside the closed plane figure. Now, when we consider the triangle ABC, it's a closed plane figure. We have inferior angles, that are angles within the triangle, angles inside the triangle, and the angles are A, B, C. Now, when we consider the angle D, we can see that angle D is outside the triangle A, B, C. And because D is outside the triangle, we say D is an exterior angle. We say D is an exterior angle. Now, the exterior angle of a triangle is equal to the sum of the 2 interior opposite angles. Now, when we consider the exterior angle D, the 2 opposite interior angles are C and A. The 2 interior opposite angles to the exterior angle D are A and C. And so we are saying that the exterior angle of a triangle is equal to the sum of the 2 interior opposite angles. That means that D is equal to A plus C. That is, the exterior angle D is equal to the sum of the 2 interior opposite angles, that is A and C. And that is why D is equal to A plus C. Now, right angle triangle. A triangle which has one right angle is a right angle triangle. A triangle which has one right angle is called a right angle triangle. That is, it has one of the angles to be equal to 90 degrees. Now, the longer side of a right angle triangle is called the hypotenuse. The relationship between the 3 sides of a right angle triangle is called the Pythagoras theorem. It's called the Pythagoras theorem. Now let's consider the right angle triangle. This is a right angle triangle because we have one of the angles to be equal to 90 degrees. And this is a 90 degrees angle. Now, the longer side of a right angle triangle is the side opposite to the right angle. That is the side opposite to the 90 degrees angle. And we are saying that the longer side of the right angle triangle is called the hypotenuse. That is our H. Now, when we consider the angle theta, the angle theta is an acute angle. Acute angle is any angle greater than 0 degrees but less than 90 degrees. Considering the acute angle theta, we already know that the longer side is the hypotenuse. Now we can see that this side B is opposite to the angle theta, and therefore the opposite side is B. That is why B is the opposite side. So B is opposite to the angle theta. We know that H is the longest side, and the longest side is called the hypotenuse. And we are left with the third side, that is the last side of the triangle, and we call it the adjacent. So adjacent to the angle theta is A. So A equals adjacent. Now, let's look at the Pythagoras theorem. Considering the right angle triangle, the angle at this point is 90 degrees, and the side opposite to the 90 degrees angle is called the hypotenuse. That is the longest side of the right angle triangle. We have our angle theta. The side B is opposite to the angle theta, and because H is the hypotenuse, that's the longest side, it means that the adjacent side is A. Now, from the Pythagoras theorem, the square of the longest side is equal to the sum of the squares of the other two sides. That is, H square is equal to B square plus A square. That is, the square of the hypotenuse is equal to the square of the opposite side plus the square of the adjacent side. So from the Pythagoras theorem, H square is equal to A square plus B square. Now, let's look at this example and see how best we can solve this problem using the Pythagoras theorem. Using the Pythagoras theorem. Example, find the third side in each of the following triangles. When we consider the first triangle, we can see that we are given two sides. Now look at where we have our 90 degrees angle. The side that is opposite to the 90 degrees angle is the longest side, and the longest side of a right angle triangle is called the hypotenuse. It means that the other two sides are 4 and 3. Now, because the acute angle is not given, it means that any of the numbers 3 and 4 can be our opposite or adjacent. Now, when we consider the right angle triangle, the side opposite to the 90 degrees angle is 25. That means that we are given the hypotenuse, and we are given one of the sides to calculate for the last side. Now, let's see how best we can solve this problem using the Pythagoras theorem. From the Pythagoras theorem, we know that the square of the longest side, that is the square of the hypotenuse, is equal to the sum of the squares of the other two sides. When we consider this diagram, the longest side is A, that is the hypotenuse, so the hypotenuse is A. Now, because the acute angle is not given, any of the side can be our adjacent, and any of the side can be our opposite. So from this diagram, let our adjacent side be 3, and let our opposite side be 4. So we know the hypotenuse to be A, we know the adjacent to be 3, and we know the opposite now to be 4. From the Pythagoras theorem, when we square the longest side, is equal to the sum of the squares of the other two sides, and therefore A square, since A is the longest side, A square is equal to 3 square plus 4 square. Now when we square 3, the answer is 9, and 4 square equals 16. 9 plus 16 equals 25. So if you have A square equals 25, and you are solving for A, you have to take the square root of both sides. When we take the square root of A square, the answer is A. And when we take the square root of 25, the answer is 5. That means that A is equal to 5. And you can see that 5 is greater than 4 and 3. And so it is true that the longest side is the hypotenuse. That is the side opposite to the angle 90 degrees. So A is equal to 5. Now, when we consider the second diagram, it's a right angle triangle. This is our 90 degrees angle. And the side 25 is opposite to the 90 degrees angle. That's our hypotenuse. And we are given the other two sides. So let the hypotenuse be 25. The hypotenuse, that's the longest side, is 25 from the diagram. Let the adjacent be D. And let the opposite side be 24. Now from the Pythagoras theorem, H square equals A square plus B square. That is, the square of the longest side is equal to the sum of the squares of the other two sides. This means that 25 square is equal to D square plus 24 square. So 25 square is equal to d square plus 24 square. Now because we are solving for d, let's group the numbers on the left hand side. So plus 24 square on the right hand side becomes minus 24 square on the left hand side. And 25 square is equal to 625. Minus 24 square is equal to 576, and this is equal to d square. Now 625 minus 576 is equal to 49. So we have 49 is equal to d square, and this can be written as d square is equal to 49. Now because we are solving for d, we have to take the square root of both sides. And when we take the square root of d square, we have d on the left hand side. When we take the square root of 49, the square root of 49 is equal to 7. That means that the value of d is equal to 7. Now let's look at this problem. Calculate the values of the letter in the following diagram. Considering this diagram, A, D, B is a right angle triangle. This is a 90 degrees angle. We know that CB is a straight line, and because the angle a straight line make is equal to 180 degrees. That is the sum of angles on a straight line is equal to 180 degrees. That means that if this is 90 degrees, then it means that the angle at D, considering the right angle triangle ADC, is also equal to 90 degrees. That means that ADC is also a right angle triangle, and ADB is a right angle triangle. Now we are given the distance from A to C to be 17. The distance from C to D is 8. The distance from D to B is x, and the distance from A to B is 25. So we are asked to find the value of x. We are asked to find the value of x. That's the distance from D to B. Now, when you consider the first right angle triangle, ADC, you can see that we are given two sides. That is 17 and 8. And therefore, we can find the side AD. Now, because we have our 90 degrees angle here, we can see that the side AC is the longest side of the right angle triangle ADC. And so the square of the longest side is equal to the squares of the other two sides. Now, we can use triangle ADC to calculate for the length AD. Then after getting our length AD, we combine the answer we get with the 25 given in order to calculate for our x. Now let's look at how best we can solve this problem. Solution. This was the diagram we were given. We have two right angle triangles. We have ADC and we have ADB. Now, triangle ACD is a right angle triangle. That is triangle ACD is a right angle triangle. And we know that AC square, that is the longest side square, is equal to AD square plus CD square. So that is how come we have AC square equals AD square plus CD square. Now because we are searching for AD, we make AD the subject. That means that plus CD square on the left hand side becomes minus CD square on the left hand side. Now AC from the question, AC has been given to be 17, and so we have 17 square. Minus CD square, the distance from C to D has been given to be 8, so we have 8 square. This is equal to AD square. Now this can be written as AD square equals 17 square minus 8 square. And 17 square minus 8 square is equal to 225. Now, if AD square is equal to 225, and we want to solve for AD, it means we have to take the square root of both sides. And taking the square root of both sides, the value of AD, that's the distance from A to D, is equal to the square root of 225, and that is equal to 15. And that is how come we have 15 here. This is now the distance from A to D. So we have the distance from A to D to be 15. Don't forget that the distance from A to B was given in the question to be 25, and we were asked to find x. Now we know the side AD, we know the side AB, So from Pythagoras theorem, we can calculate the third side x, now that we know the value of AD to be 15. Now let's look at the solution. Triangle ABD is a right angle triangle. That is triangle ABD is a right angle triangle with a 90 degrees angle at D as shown. AB square is equal to AD square plus DB square. Because we are solving for DB or BD, that is x, we make BD the subject. That means that AD square on the right hand side becomes minus AD square on the left hand side, and this is equal to BD square. Now AB square, AB from the question is 25, so we have 25 square minus AD square. AD from our calculation we had 15, so AD square is equal to 15 square, and this is equal to BD square. Now if 25 square minus 15 square is equal to BD square, then it means that we can write it in this form, that BD square is equal to 25 square minus 15 square. That is, the right becomes the left and the left becomes the right. Now 25 square minus 15 square is equal to 400. And if BD square is equal to 400 and we want to find the value of BD, we have to take the square root of both sides. And in doing that, BD will be equal to the square root of 400. And the square root of 400 is equal to 20. This implies that the value of x is equal to 20 because BD equals 20. So x is equal to 20. Now let's look at this example. Calculate the value of the letter in the following diagram. Now let's consider this diagram. PSR is a right angle triangle at S. That means that PSQ is also a right angle triangle because the total angle must give us 180. Now we are given the distance from P to R to be 39, the distance from P to Q to be 17, and we are given the distance from R to Q to be 44. Take note that we are not given the distance from R to S, neither are we given the distance from S to Q, but we are given the total distance from R to Q. Please, you cannot divide 44 by 2 and say that RS equals 22 and SQ equals 22 because we are not given any condition like that in the question. We are only given the distance between R and Q. Now let's see the solution to this problem. Considering the diagram that was given, PQ was given to be 39, and that is PR is 39 and PQ is 17. From P to S is H. Let the distance from R to S be X. If the distance from R to S is X, then it means that the distance from S to Q will be 44 minus X. Why? Because the total distance from R to Q is 44. And therefore, if the distance from R to S is X, then it means that the distance from S to Q will be 44 minus X. So now, triangle PSR is a right angle triangle. That is triangle PSR is a right angle triangle. From Pythagoras theorem, the square of the longest side, that is 39, is equal to the sum of the squares of the other two sides, that is x and h. So 39 square is equal to h square plus x square, and making h square the subject, plus x square on the right hand side becomes minus x square on the left hand side, which can be written as h square is equal to 39 square minus x square. So let this be our equation 1. Now, triangle PSQ, that is triangle PSQ, is also a right angle triangle, and we know that the longest side is 17. From Pythagoras theorem, the square of the longest side is equal to the sum of the squares of the other two sides, and therefore 17 square is equal to h square plus 44 minus x square. So we have 17 square is equal to h square plus 44 minus x all square. Let this be our equation 2. Now these are the two equations we have. From equation 1, we had h square is equal to 39 square minus x square to be our equation 1. And from equation 2, we have 17 square equals h squared plus 44 minus x all squared. That's our equation 2. Now from our equation 2, if you try to make h squared the subject, that means that plus 44 minus x all squared becomes minus 44 minus x on the left hand side. And so when the left hand side becomes the right hand side and the right hand side becomes the left hand side, then it means that equation 2 now becomes h squared is equal to 17 squared minus 44 minus x all squared. It's still our equation 2. Now from equation 1, h squared is equal to 39 squared minus x squared. And from equation 2, h squared is also equal to 17 squared minus 44 minus x all squared. And so we equate equation 1 to equation 2 because h squared is the same as h squared on the left hand side of both equations. So we equate the two equations. So by equating the right hand side, we have 39 squared minus x squared is equal to 17 squared minus 44 minus x all squared. Now 39 squared is equal to 1521. So we have 1521 minus x squared is equal to 17 squared is equal to 289. Now let's simplify the expression you have in the bracket. We have 44 minus x all squared. And when we expand 44 minus x all squared, the result is 1936 minus 88x plus x squared. Now 1521 minus x squared on the left hand side is equal to 289. Now because we are opening the bracket, take note that we have minus 1 outside the bracket. And therefore minus 1 multiplies all the terms we have in the bracket. So minus 1 times 1936 will be minus 1936. And minus 1 times minus 88x will give us plus 88x. And minus 1 times plus x squared will give us minus x squared. Now let's proceed. 1521 minus x squared is equal to 289 minus 1936 plus 88x minus x squared. We group the constants on the left hand side with the x squares and the term with the x on the right hand side. And so 1521 minus x squared, because we have minus x squared on the right hand side, that becomes plus x squared on the right hand side, on the left hand side. And that is how come we have minus x squared plus x squared, because already we have 1 minus x squared on the left hand side. So we have minus x squared on the right hand side coming to the left hand side. Now 289 becomes minus 289 on the left hand side. And minus 1936 becomes plus 1936 on the left hand side. So we have 1521 minus 289 plus 1936 minus x squared plus x squared equals 88x. Now 1521 minus 289 plus 1936 equals 3168 equals 88x. That means that if you want to find the value of x, you have to divide both sides of the equation by 88. And in doing that, the value of x is equal to 36. Now we put x equals 36 into equation 1. And from equation 1, h squared is equal to 39 squared minus x squared. So wherever we see x in equation 1, we substitute 36. And so h squared will now be 39 squared minus 36 squared. And this is equal to 225. Now if h squared is equal to 225 and we are solving for h, we have to take the square root of both sides. And taking the square root of h squared, we have h. When we take the square root of 225, we have 15. Because the square root of 225 is equal to 15. That means that the height h is equal to 15. This is the end of our presentation on plane geometry.